Welcome to the comparison video of the Wei Jiang Evasion Mode Optimus Prime Oversized Edition. In this video we're going to go ahead and take a look at the figure relative to other Optimus Primes. There's been a lot of talk about how he scales with your existing figure collection depending on which series you collect. So I'm going to do my best to show you what he looks like relative to other ones, as many as I have in my collection anyhow. This is how he scales next to the original Voyager version of the Optimus Prime released by Hasbro for Evasion Mode for the Age of Extinction movie. And this is a specially painted version. It's been customized. So if he looks a little different than the version you have, that's probably why. But you can see that he is not twice as tall as the original Voyager Mode Prime. But he definitely looks to be, about twice the size. What's nice about this figure is you can see, relative to the original Voyager Mode, how much detail was actually maintained in the upscale. It's pretty much exact. There's some liberties taken for design in a few of the areas where they just really added more detail. Outside of the engineering parts that were added overall, all the original detail was pretty much in the original Evasion Mode Prime. No comparison video of Optimus is ever complete without an original G1. This is a reissue for the commemorative release of Optimus Prime, and relative to the Evasion Mode Wei Jiang, you can see he's about half as tall, and it's very interesting to see what Prime was at his original release versus what Wei Jiang has been able to do with it. Here is the Classics Optimus Prime Classics Universe line. This is the Hasbro release, I believe, and this one is a bit taller than the original G1 Optimus Prime, but still comes in at about half the height of the Evasion Mode Wei Jiang. For you Transformers the Animated Series collectors, I've got both the deluxe version of the Earth Mode Optimus Prime as well as the deluxe version of the Cybertron Mode Optimus Prime. You can see they're holding their axes. Would have been nice if I had the axe displayed with Evasion Mode Wei Jiang, but you can see they're approximately about half the height of the Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. Here's the Return of the Fallen Leader class Optimus Prime from the movies, and it was highly regarded as one of the best Optimus figures at the time, and I still think is, especially for its perfect transformation to truck mode. What's nice about this one is you can see how it scales next to the Wei Jiang in terms of height and width, and it's got the battle blades as well. You can see that on the upper body part, the leader size is pretty wide, but the Wei Jiang is definitely taller. The details on both are very good, but the Evasion Mode is much better proportioned overall, and I think that was one of the drawbacks of the leader class figure. If you can see, the paint jobs, of course, are much more detailed on the Wei Jiang, where the leader class Optimus Prime is a bit more of the plasticky toy look. But there are other versions of the figure that are painted up nicely and hold up very well in comparison. But the Wei Jiang just is on a whole other level in terms of paint quality. Here he is next to the Masterpiece Hasbro release of the MP10 Optimus Prime, and the Masterpiece comes to about the shoulder height of the Evasion Mode Wei Jiang. This is the other Wei Jiang release, which actually came out before the Evasion Mode, and this is the MPP10 Optimus Prime, which was released by Wei Jiang at the end of the year in 2015, and you can see that he is taller than the Wei Jiang Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. They are both two of the best Optimus figures released to date, and Wei Jiang has really outdone themselves with the release of Evasion. As much as I love the MPP10, the amount of detail on the M01 just absolutely blows me away. These are two third-party offerings which I think are changing the way we look at third-party offerings and quote-unquote bootlegs of existing Hasbro Takara designs for the Transformer line series. But it's very interesting in this case because both of these turn into a G1 truck, of which the alternate modes are of similar size, yet you can see that the MPP-10 on the left is larger overall in bot stature and height versus the M01 Evasion mode on the right, which still looks great. It would have been nice, I think, to have seen them in scale relative in size and similar height in bot mode, just because it's weird to see one bigger than the other when they have a similar alternate mode size. But absolutely beautiful pieces, and the level of detail and engineering on these and build quality, plastic quality, chroming, everything is absolutely top notch. So Wei Jiang has really set the bar high in this case, and these are definitely two of the must-have figures for any Optimus fan out there. The one version of Optimus Prime that I would have liked to have included in this comparison, which I didn't have out of box, was the Masterpiece Optimus Prime 01, which is the original release of Optimus Prime and the very first Masterpiece released by Takara. As I understand it, he is not as tall as the Wei Jiang Evasion mode Optimus Prime, but he is probably the third largest, third tallest Optimus Prime in my collection anyway, who's taller than the MP-10, but not as tall as the Wei Jiang M01 Evasion Prime. And here we have the figure in the semi-truck mode, and you can see I've applied my own stickers, so just so you know, that sticker does not come default with the Wei Jiang. I just had that put on myself. But before we do the comparisons, I just wanted to point out a few things about this Evasion truck mode. One, it's a very nice G1 truck mode. I think it looks fantastic. There are a few issues that I do have with it that I think could have been improved by Wei Jiang, as if they didn't already do enough. But let's quickly address the things that a lot of people have mentioned. First off, these windows, as you can see, have a cut here because part of the transformation and the way they've segmented it for transformation puts lines through the windows. I think a lot of people have mentioned that that's something that they don't like. And they've also mentioned too about how the alignment for the windows doesn't necessarily come out as perfect as they would like to see it. I acknowledge that, and I think it's partially true as well, but I specifically notice it in these spaces right here. If you take a look at how this is done relative to the original Voyager mode, it's a little bit more apparent. They've actually changed where the lines cut in to the different geometries on the face of the truck, which I don't think is a big deal. But when you transform the thing, there's certain things you're looking for, specifically that these lines around the window line up one-on-one so that they are more or less flush with each other. And to some degree, you can't even really do that. You can see there's a protrusion right here. I don't know how well it's going to come out on the camera, but there's no way you can actually get that flush down and get those lines to line up exactly. It just isn't possible, because if you look at the way this piece that actually folds up and folds in lines up with the rest of the face, as long as you get this part right here flush, you've got it in about as far as it can go, and even when that happens, this part protrudes. And then these lines up here, although they're really close, they don't line up exactly. I think a little bit more height, maybe doing something like this, can get you a little bit more alignment, but it's definitely not perfect. And in general, the face is very cut up, because the way the transformation engineering works is that this whole face is paneled up. Now, that's a very minor complaint on my side, only because it's such a great figure, and to be able to go from what you were seeing with the bot mode into something like this is absolutely fantastic, and something that I'm just pointing out for review's sake, but in general it doesn't bother me in the least. The thing that does bother me just a little bit is the way the paint is done. Now, the paint apps, of course, are really good, but if you take a look at it, you can see that in these silver areas, when you get into where the gaps for the paneling happen, you can see where the gray or silver ends and then the red begins. I think visually that's distracting. It would have been nice to have seen them do some gray paint around the corner so that visually you don't get a breakup of the gray into the red. I think that's actually distracting, and it would have been nice for them to put some more paint around the corners just to visually conceal the red. Now I also do know that if they did that, there's a possibility that you get paint wear and scratch on it, and maybe that's why they didn't do it. I don't know, but that would have been a great deal to add, and you can even see it in between here on the plates too. The other thing is, relative to other Optimus Primes, it would have been nice to have been seeing some chrome in the spaces like the grille and the fender as you have down here, and also would have been nice to have chrome gas canisters as well. I think that would have been a detail that really would have made this figure pop. Okay, so very minor complaints. One other thing mechanically is I have noticed too that these wheels, they tend to pop out quite a bit. So there's actually a notch in here underneath these panels where they tab in here, and they come out quite a bit. You can definitely work a few things. Let me push it in to get it tighter, but in general, you see how it flares out like this? I find myself pushing it in every now and then as though the alignment's not perfect. I don't know if there's a transformation alignment that I'm missing, but I do see it pop out and am sometimes pushing it back in. Okay. Other than that, you've got a little bit of kibble in the back here, if you will, with the feet. The fact that you turn these around makes it, definitely nice. The all blue on the original Voyager version conceals a little bit more, so you visually see it more just because it's gray against the blue. But in general, it's a wonderful truck mode. Turn out mirrors and all that good stuff, and also the grade windows is a nice touch. But the underside, you can see these two pieces here which make up this blue back pieces where the canisters plug in and detail on the bot mode. You don't normally see it if you're not looking at it from underneath or from a low angle, but you can see here how much it actually sticks out. If you are, sort of worm's eye, this will actually visually be quite noticeable. And it's a bit of an eyesore, but if you're looking at an angle kind of like this, you're not ever really going to see it. Okay? So, wonderful piece. And with that said, let's go ahead and see how it looks relative to some other Optimus Primes in truck mode. Here he is next to the G1 Optimus Prime. This is the commemorative reissue of Optimus. And it's really nice to see them go sort of full circle and come back to the original design versus the movie mode that they were using for the Bay movies. One thing that would have been ultra cool to see would be if they had the silver paneling lines in the front where they dip down and cut in to the grille in the front on here as well. That would have been a really nice homage to see if they had actually done that. But it's a great version of the G1 truck no matter how you look at it. Here he is next to the deluxe versions of the Transformers the Animated Series versions of Prime. And this is pretty much how big he is relative to any deluxe figure of Prime that you might have. Here he is next to the Voyager version of Optimus Prime from the Classics Universe line. And you can see it's definitely bigger than what we tend to see with the G1 or the deluxe size class figures. This is the Voyager version of Optimus Prime from Age of Extinction, and is the toy that the Evasion mode Wei Jiang was actually based on. And once again you can see that a lot of the detail from the original toy has been carried over quite faithfully, with a few changes, and I'll point out a few really quickly. One, you can see here on the side that there is an added window right here, where right here it's just simply the red and the square window stops right there. There's also the darkened windows versus the clear that you've got on here. And you'll also notice too that these mirrors open and close where they're simply molded in place right here. The wheels are rubber, where they're plastic here, and the original toy doesn't come with painted wheel wells, but I did mine just for the visual. But again, a very faithful upscale and improvement over the original toy. This is how he looks next to the MP10 Hasbro release of Optimus Prime, the Masterpiece version. Many of you may have this figure on the right. Two things I'll point out. One, you can see that the MP10 uses the lighter cartoon blue versus a darker blue used in the M01 for the more Japanese Takara releases of the Prime toys. But it's definitely a good upscale in terms of semi from the MP10. If you happen to have that on your shelf, you can see how much space the M01 may take up once you get them into your collection. And here we have the MPP10, which is the other Wei Jiang offering, and it is the oversized version of the MP10 Masterpiece Optimus Prime. In general, these two cabs are similar in size, but not exactly the same. Matter of fact, the MPP10 is actually bigger overall, but most noticeable from other angles and not so much from the front. If we actually turn the two and face them forward, they look very similar in size and are dimensionally very, very similar. But when you turn them to the side here and you look at the lengths as well as some of the other details, you can pretty much see outright that the MPP10 is actually, number one, longer, but the cab itself is a bit thicker as well. Okay. Also on the top, you'll see it's got a little bit more girth as well, but they're still of the same scale, I would say. I'd even say that the wheels look the same size overall. What I really like about the MPP10 Optimus Prime cab is all the chroming, and it would have been nice for Wei Jiang to have done the same for the M01, specifically in the spaces here on the grille and in the bumper. Those are places where I think chrome would have really enhanced the toy a lot. Perhaps they didn't do it because those are molded pieces of plastic that are attached to unchromed pieces. I don't know. But that's a detail that would have been nice to have, as well as having chrome on the gas tanks where you've got it on the G1 Prime as well as the MPP10. Overall, though, they're both great offerings from Wei Jiang. The truck models look great on both, and I think that in terms of shelf pieces, these are both excellent figures to have. One being better than the other is a matter of preference. In general, I prefer the MPP10 Wei Jiang Optimus Prime in truck mode more over the M01, just because it's much more seamless in terms of where the engineering and geometric cuts were made in the semi. So it looks a lot more like a toy truck or a real truck than the M01 does, only because the M01 has so much paneling in its faceplate, not just all over the front of it, but through the windows as well. But that's not to take away from how good the M01 is. It's simply an observation. This is the leader class. I think it's the Dark of the Moon or Return of the Fallen Optimus Prime. And I regard this one as one of the best Transformers ever made, simply because it's a excellent, perfect transformation from truck mode to bot mode. But relative to this version, you can see that this is, number one, a great truck, but number two, the sizes are very similar. I think in real life, a real version of this truck would be massively huge, and they don't scale relative to each other, but in terms of size and length, this looks like it has more overall mass and is definitely longer. So if you have this, you can get an idea of what they might be like relative to each other, and that's how long they are. Definitely this one has the length over the M01, but I would say on your shelf they take up very similar footprint. And with that, I bring the review of the Evasion Mode Optimus Prime by Wei Jiang M01 to an end. I appreciate you guys having a look and hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you online.